Trump and his advisors think the Democrats are pulling off a heist with Joe Biden's campaign cash. The campaign has now filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission saying that the funds that were meant for Biden's reelection can't be used for Vice President Harris's campaign. Joining us at the table now is the legal mind himself, Elie Honig. Elie, so explain it to us like we are five. Can they do this or not?
So let me start by saying something that we're going to all be saying a lot of in the next 4 months. This is brand new. We've never been here before, and we don't know for sure. However, it seems to me, based on the scholarship that's out there and the expertise that's out there, that this is a serious long shot by the Trump campaign. So first of all, this is not a lawsuit. This is a complaint with the Federal Election Commission, which is part of the executive branch. They have quite limited enforcement powers. But problem number one is a practical problem. There's no realistic way the FEC, which has 6 members, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, would even answer this in the 100 days or so remaining between now and the election. I think what Trump's people are trying to do is set the table to say we're not getting a satisfactory answer from the FEC. Therefore, they're going to go, I think their next step at some point is going to be to go into a federal court and ask for an injunction. But I think it's a real uphill climb for them.
So, I mean, we talked about this already. They're going to try to throw every possible legal thing at the wall on this, just as a strategy, just to create chaos and muck up the works.
Or just be a nuisance. Like, it seems to be worth the stress just to be like, okay, one more thing for you to have to worry about. And if everything goes absolutely perfectly, you'll lose all your money, which is not going to happen. But I see the argument.
The argument, I think the core argument they're making is donors donated to Joe Biden. Now it's Kamala Harris. But of course, the response, and I think probably the winning argument is no, the donation was made to Biden and Harris. Both of their names are registered on that campaign. And so it's much easier to slide that money over to Kamala Harris. By the way, if it was not Kamala Harris, highly unlikely that that money could be transferred over to her. If it was Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, probably wouldn't work. But because Harris's name was already on there, it's logical and she should get it.
We should point out that they raised more money in one day
Come on now.
than was in that account.
Right.
So, you know, I'm sure they want that 96 million, and it may not be 96 million anymore. But what's, you know, I don't think money is going to be the problem. I do think this is sort of a nuisance, like a harassment suit.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about almost $100 million and how it can get spent. And Elie, I love the way you're starting off by saying, this is uncharted territory. Yeah. The FEC chairman came out just quoting what the CFR says and reading it verbatim, saying the money was donated to one candidate. That candidate pulls out for the general. The money needs to be returned. Yeah. And then you have people who are on the opposite side of the fence. They have a different interpretation. And we'll see. And the FEC obviously has jurisdiction. But to your point at the end, which also was really good, is, let's say, because it will take so long, maybe there's a request that gets filed inside of a court, maybe for an injunction. I don't want to speculate, but there is a reading of campaign finance law that says when the candidate for the general who received the donation steps aside, that the donations have to be returned.
Yeah, and I have shocking breaking news, by the way. Basically, all the Republican members of the FEC who've spoken out, informers, are saying it's not okay, and all the Democratic members of the FEC informers are saying it's perfectly fine.
It's a coincidence, Elie.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Right, but I mean, to David's point, there will be a string of lawsuits. This is just the first of many. I mean, I think, the Trump campaign and the Heritage Foundation have signaled that they intend to challenge the ability to even put Kamala Harris's name on the ballot in certain states.
This is my brain being kind of a little paranoid because I lived through 2020. But the string of frivolous lawsuits as a strategy being used later on to question the validity of an election is something we ought to be on the lookout for, because I don't think it's out of the question.
It's definitely part of the strategy. But the problem is, though, this election is going to come down to 1 to 2% of the population in key states. And this kind of stuff, these kind of tactics, turn them off. They're over they're over Trump's antics when it comes to these things. And so, it might be great for the base. It might get the base ginned up. It might be a distraction for the Harris campaign. But the reality is you're not making up any ground with the people who you need to win.
My favorite part of this whole discussion over the last few days is I heard the Speaker of the House say, they're disenfranchising 14 million people and, overturning the will of the people. And I'm thinking, isn't that what January 6th was about? I mean, is this really where you guys want to go? I don't think so.
So yesterday, go ahead.
I want to get this Hillary Clinton thing in because people are talking about Hillary Clinton's new op-ed today. She wrote about Vice President Kamala Harris, she says Ms. Harris's record and character will be distorted and disparaged by a flood of disinformation and the kind of ugly prejudice we're already hearing from MAGA mouthpieces. I know a thing or two about how hard it could be for strong women candidates to fight through sexism and double standards of American politics. I've been called a witch, a nasty woman, and much else. But she says Kamala Harris can beat Donald Trump in spite of all of that.
Yeah. Well, we have, time does go on here. I mean, my advice, honestly, to the Harris campaign is not to get involved in this discussion. She looked to me like a candidate who was unafraid and unbothered the last couple of days. That's a good look for her.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get into these conversations.
Yeah, and Lee, the other thing I think about is whether Republicans are going to be so emboldened by Trump's victory over Clinton that they're going to try the same playbook against Harris, and it's going to be a mistake.